Apollo 13 launched on April 11, 1970, from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. It was NASA's third mission to attempt a lunar landing, following the success of Apollo 11 and Apollo 12. The crew consisted of Commander Jim Lovell, Command Module Pilot Jack Swigert, and Lunar Module Pilot Fred Haise. Spirits were high as they left Earth, and the astronauts were well prepared for what was supposed to be another groundbreaking mission. The goal of Apollo 13 was to land in the Fra Mauro region of the Moon. This area was thought to be rich in scientific information that could help scientists understand the history of the Moon and Earth. The journey seemed smooth at first as the spacecraft coasted through the vast expanse of space. 56 hours into the mission on April 13, the astronauts were about 200,000 miles from Earth when disaster struck. An explosion suddenly rocked the spacecraft. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the crew saw that the pressure in one of their oxygen tanks had dropped to zero. The explosion had caused a leak, and they were rapidly losing oxygen and power. Jack Swigert, Houston, we've had a problem. The severity of the situation quickly became apparent to the ground team. The oxygen tank explosion had not only damaged the spacecraft but also compromised its ability to reach the Moon, or even to bring the crew safely back to Earth. At this point, the lunar landing was no longer possible, and Apollo 13's mission changed to one of survival. The astronauts needed to preserve what little power, water, and oxygen they had left. To make matters worse, the command module, the part of the spacecraft that would take them home, was losing power and life support. The lunar module, originally designed only for landing on and ascending from the Moon, became their lifeboat. Mission Control quickly devised a plan to transfer the astronauts into the lunar module to keep them alive. They would need to use this smaller module to circle the Moon and return to Earth. The team at NASA faced a monumental task. They had to quickly solve complex problems that had never been encountered before. Engineers worked around the clock to design a safe return trajectory, ration supplies, and overcome the issue of carbon dioxide buildup. The air filters in the lunar module couldn't handle the 3 astronauts' CO2 output, and without a fix, the crew would eventually be poisoned by their own breath. Using materials they had on board, the astronauts constructed a makeshift filter using a sock, plastic bag, cardboard, and duct tape. Known as the mailbox, this contraption helped to keep them alive by purifying the air and preventing a deadly buildup of carbon dioxide. After several days of intense problem-solving and nerve-wracking moments, the crew finally reached the point where they could make their final attempt to return to Earth. They powered up the command module, which had been almost completely shut down to conserve energy, and prepared for re-entry. The re-entry process was still risky. The heat shield had been damaged, and there was concern it might not protect the crew from the intense heat of re-entry. For Mission Control and the world watching, the tensest moments came during re-entry. As the spacecraft hurtled toward Earth, it entered a period of radio silence. For several minutes there was no word from Apollo 13. NASA officials, the crew's families, and people around the world held their breath, waiting for the first crackling sounds of communication to return. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the voices of Lovell, Swigert, and Haise came through. Apollo 13 had survived re-entry. The spacecraft splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean on April 17, 1970, and the crew was quickly picked up by the USS Iwo Jima. Apollo 13 was called a successful failure because, while it never achieved its original mission, it highlighted the incredible resilience, teamwork, and quick thinking of both the astronauts and NASA engineers. The entire episode underscored the importance of planning, ingenuity, and adaptability in space exploration, and it left an enduring legacy of human spirit in the face of seemingly impossible odds. If you enjoyed this story of triumph over adversity, don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible tales of human achievement.